ourselves.
Just wonder why we think like that. Anyways, hi, Kevin.
Hi, Morgan. How are you doing this
Oh,
week?
I think so far so good.
Yeah, you're getting your
I
vaccine on Thursday.
I am, but you got yours today, and you didn't just get the vaccine; you got the J&J, which is like the coveted one. It's like the one that everybody wants.
Yeah, it's like it was all pretty spontaneous and unexpected, but really happy I got to get it today. And obviously, to be able to get that particular one is just like so wonderful to just be done and over with.
Do you feel like you have superpowers now?
No, honestly. But if you asked my partner Devin that question, he would definitely say 100% yes.
Okay,
He was like
not affected.
amped up, like I am ready to go like out and see the world. And I was just sitting there like my arm hurts.
This seems like a very parallel to like how my partner received his first vaccine. He was like expecting to like go out, like do things, and he's like, wow, it still sucks and no one can still do anything. And it like, and so he was kind of like a mix of both of you. He was like, ow, my arm hurts, and ouch, I can't actually really live my life still. Like I have to wait for everybody else.
I know, yeah. He's like, I wish I could just like tape my like vaccine card like on my shirt and just be like, no, I'm safe. Like I can just be free now. But
No, that is what I mean. We should make t-shirts that say I'm vaccinated.
yeah, I know. I feel like probably by midsummer we'll be experiencing a different world. I don't think it'll be like 100% back to quote unquote normal, but
No.
I think it'll be. I actually just got a notification today saying that California will be like fully open in June.
Oh my God.
I didn't click on the link to like exactly see what that means, but fully open implies a lot of things.
Fully open means more frolicking outside. It just means more hikes on the mountains and the wineries.
That's what it means for me. Like,
Yeah.
like regardless of anything to do with COVID, like my summer kind of looks the same. Like I want to be outside as much as possible. I want to hike. My brother's here. I want to spend like tons of time with him. He just texted me asking if I wanted to go on a hike this week. So luckily, things won't change too much. I do want to be exploring more like in museums, galleries, and
Mm,
just in the city in general. And that's the stuff that's a little bit restricted right now.
right.
So
Seeing art, it's more of an effort. You have to buy the ticket, you have to reserve your time, and it's less of a spontaneous trip. You have to really plan it out.
I know seeing art, like it's just, have you seen art in the last year?
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to see art in person. I went to one gallery in all of 2020, I think. I think it was just one.
Mm.
And other than that, like I got to curate a couple shows that were very like um, under like COVID precautions. But I didn't get to see a lot of art in person and makes things hard for
Mm.
artists and art lovers.
Yeah.
And then also for us, like artists, like showing our work. I know we talked a lot about like how we present ourselves online, and like a lot of the motivation comes from the like upcoming exhibitions, and we don't have any. So
Mm. Don't remind me. I guess I was bad. Like I saw some art. The first exhibition I went to go see was actually at the MFA, and they were really strict, and they had already recently had been closed, and then they reopened, and then they closed again, and they I think just reopened. I can't be too sure about that, but I saw the Basquiat show,
hmm
and that was phenomenal. It had way more than I was expecting. But to be honest, the whole experience was very overwhelming. Walking into the gallery and like walking into the museum, they took your temperature. I mean, the whole experience was different. And it kind of made me feel scared while I was there. When did I go is the question. It was cold out, it was like probably in January, I want to say. And when I walked in, I just felt a little bit nervous being around. There wasn't that many people let in at the same time. Like
Wow.
you
So you
they
went, so January, like you mean 2021.
oh, maybe it was 2021. Yikes. Let me see.
But
I
that's still like, we're still in COVID time. So,
mm, yeah, that's true. Yeah, exactly. Still in COVID times. Maybe it was before January. I don't remember. But then I also went to, I guess it was all in the new year. I went to the Berkshires and I
mm,
went to the Clark Museum, and that was amazing. And I also went and saw the James Turrell light show at Mass MoCA.
that's awesome. I am remembering I did go to the art fairs in New York City the first week of March, which is when COVID was like first starting to be a thing.
Yeah.
Um, that and a gallery I went to in Oakland are probably the only two experiences. Like I was going to the New York fairs every year for work, and I remember it really vividly, feeling it was still at a time where we were like, is COVID real? Like we don't even know what it is, or and when we were in New York City, the fairs were pretty much at normal. Nobody was wearing masks or anything, and
Oof. God.
um, there
When was
was
that? When was this again?
first week of March,
Oh, yeah.
2020.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
No
and
one knew.
not really. No, I remember when we were there, there was a big news article that said um, Uber driver in New York City test positive for COVID, and we were like, we're taking Ubers. Like, do we have COVID? Yeah, so it was the start of something kind of scary, but mostly it was enjoyable and got to see so much art, like more art that's what the fairs are kind of for. Like you just
Yeah,
see more art than you'll ever dream of. And
I know. I've still never been to one of those large, large art fairs. And I was convinced to actually sign up for one that Erin did out in LA.
mhm.
She did one of it's what are the big I'm like it's escaping me, the ones that what was the one you went to? What was the name of it?
New York is like they call it Armory Week.
Oh,
So
right.
there's like art on paper, Armory, there's like Scope, Independence,
Untitled
Untitled.
Art Fair. I think
Yeah.
that's what she did. And it's like $5,000 for a table, or maybe it's less than that. Maybe it's like $2,000 for a table. Um, but her experience was awesome. She got so much visibility. Her art was seen by thousands of people, and she got deals from she got offers for bigger jobs.
Oh, that's
And I'm like,
amazing.
that is worth it. That is worth $2,000. Like, so I was supposed to do that this year because she was like, you should just come out to LA, have a booth. We'll just set it up.
Let's do
We'll make
it.
it. Yes, exactly. Let's do it. So I'm saying. Um, I just looked up. I went to the MFA in November, so before Christmas,
Wow.
and
Okay.
that was sketch. That was sketch, right? Like
Yep.
sketch time. It was right before the holidays. Everyone was like, don't see your families, stay
Mm-hmm.
home. Yeah. And that was like my gift to myself because I was like, I'm not going home for the holiday. I'm not even going home for Christmas. I haven't seen my family. I'm going to this damn museum and I'm going to see some work because I was sad.
How do you think
Um,
things are
yeah.
going to change? Like, do you think like the fairs are going to come back anytime soon?
Yeah.
Like,
So I actually do. I think they will because I think these places can't exist without them. And to have another
yeah.
year without the art fairs would be really detrimental to a lot of, the sponsorships and things like that. I think that's how they operate. I think they'll come right back out in West. I don't know about New York. I think New York's pretty much on hold for like ever. Like
Yeah.
the mecca of COVID, but I don't know. What do you think?
I'm curious how everything's going to go. I think things will come back in a different way. Like I think that we won't be able to go back to what it was like. I think it'll be something else. um,
Yeah, we
what
won't
that
be able
is,
to freely walk into a building anymore.
I'm not sure what it will look like or feel like. I think there'll be a lot of hybrid. Like it's no surprise to me that this like NFT crypto art thing is emerging, and galleries are closing and doing more virtual things. And but art that's meant to be seen in person will find a way to be seen in person, and that's what's exciting. Like how do we
Yes.
like persist through this particular time?
Yes, I agree. I mean, I think there's going to be more community-based offerings. I think people like me and you are going to come up with ideas. Like visibility has been a strong subject for us through this entire pandemic. You know, how do we get our work online and for it to feel authentic still? And how do we make sales online and it to be authentic? We need human interaction. We need the experience in person with paintings. We just do.
Hmm.
And unless you have some high end, videographer with you all the time, taking really good footage of your work and then posting it online, you're not going to get that experience unless you're seeing art in person. But this is what bred my idea for the outdoor show.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Mm, I don't know if
If
I
you
can.
can talk about it, if you don't
If
want to share, that's
the
okay.
only thing that I can say, because there's so much that has to go into this and I want it to be big, is I want there to be an outdoor experience where people can see a show but also walk around the reservoir that's near my house and view the art in specific places in nature. And I don't know yet how I'm going to have the two interject. Like maybe there needs to be a separate show that's in a gallery that corresponds with the outdoor show. Um, or there's potential that there's a spot right near the reservoir that could be transformed into a gallery. And that's something that I'm
Mm.
working on. There is a old garden center that is just, it looks vacant and it's about 30 seconds from the reservoir, and it would be it's the most optimal spot where you could gut it out, get whoever like owns it. I've already looked up the plot land and the people who own the land. I just need to reach out to them, but I want to just gut it out. And there's potential for like a really big space that we could have an art show and you just walk 30 seconds to the reservoir and walk around the reservoir and have that outdoor experience.
Whoa, this is so well thought out. Like this is the stuff like about being faced with challenges and being really resourceful. I had no idea you were like really
I'm like,
researching at this level and figuring out like all the nitty-gritty
yeah,
details. Like
I am.
this is the stuff. It's so hard to say like um it's hard to say that you're appreciative for everything that's happened when some of what's happened has been really devastating. But I don't, a lot of these really cool kind of hybrid experiences that we're figuring out in this particular time is because of like the challenges that we're
Mhm.
faced with. And I don't think
Yeah.
that they would really happen without it, you know?
Ugh. I feel like that's a general theme in this entire year. I mean, think about, I was having a conversation the other night about how much I hate Donald Trump, obviously, but how he also got all of us to engage at a level in which I was never this engaged before he came into office. Like Obama,
Hmm.
I was just like, thank God. And I was like, we can breathe. Obama's great. Love him. Didn't have to really do much engagement with the news. And then, as soon as this buffoon came in, it was like, what can I do different? And I think that was a big theme, even in this coming election, of what came out of the fire was people who are engaged, people that want to make change, bigger priority to support your local economies. And then now with COVID in the art world, it's how can we create an economy for artists? How can we create an atmosphere where we can live in and for us to be comfortable, and we're not paying all of these things to just experience being an artist, and we're not paying I don't know what I'm even talking about, the paying thing, but how like it's just expensive. It's expensive to be an artist. You basically sacrifice everything. But what supports that? Like where supports that? Where in this world? So we have to come up with it ourselves, and we have to come up with these community projects where we involve more. But that's just how anything gets done, is with the help of other people. And it's so Aquarius of me to think this way.
It's like, it's really about survival, right? Like I really relate to the political stuff. Like same, I didn't really pay attention to anything when Obama was in office, because I just trusted that things were fine. And
much trust.
Yeah, and like then when Trump was in office, it's like pretty much a constant state of general fear and anxiety. And it's centered around like this this need to survive. One, like I'm a queer person, and Trump was actively trying to take away our rights. And then of course, as a person who's like empathetic to other human beings, like trans people, people of color, and so on, like same thing. So it was like survival for myself and the people that I love, and that like really sparks this initiative to survive. And I think that's what you're talking about with the art too. It's like, what do we do as artists without any opportunities to show what we make, any opportunities to sell? How do we survive?
Yes, but also the survival is also how do we feel safe in this environment, right? For anyone who is struggling with anything, you're just trying to find the right atmosphere. You feel the safest. You're going to go towards the group of friends that you feel the safest with. And in your art communities, you're going to show your work to establishments you feel that represent you the best and who can speak to your work and you feel safe with. So I definitely feel this community-based project that I'm interested in doing is for everyone to be there, for everyone to be involved. And at first it was going to be about me and my paintings and my experience walking around this reservoir every single day, and my kind of the move I made to Gloucester and how I felt about it and how it changed me. This landscape changed me, and I am like want to stay here forever. And I wanted to react to that initially, but then as the coronavirus was continuing and it wasn't stopping, I was like, there is no way I can do this without other people being involved. Like I want to, I guess, curate for the first time. And I want to pull other people in and get other people to work with me and give other people the opportunity to show their work in this way. And also, it was important for me I can't just pull artists that I know. I have to start to get to know artists here in Gloucester who have been on this land far longer than me. How do they respond to this? If I ask them to be a part of the show, I can't just, anyways, I want them to be part of it. I want locals to be a part of the show. I just think it's important to not come in here as like a random artist and say, I'm going to take over this entire plot of land and never invite anybody in this community to be part of it. I'm just going to put on an art show with just my work. Like that just it didn't make sense to me after like 3-4 months into the coronavirus. I was like, wait a minute, this is not about me. Like, it's just not. It's about everybody, and we're all experiencing the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think like what I'm thinking about is like your connection to landscape, like on a personal level, being in it and, and experiencing it on your own, and then its influence on the work and how it shows up in the work and how you use landscape as a tool in your
Mm-hmm.
work. Um, but also, like, landscape is a shared space with really rich, deep history, and
Yes.
that's about like community. And I think about the importance of community more in regards to that than necessarily like I think that I guess what I'm trying to say is like it doesn't really matter how long you've been there. Like I really view like however you feel about a space and interpret a space to be really valid and no more or less valid than like someone who's been there for 50 years. And I feel
Mm.
like not that you actually do feel this way, but I don't think you should feel obligated or
Oh,
to to include anyone unless it feels right, you know. And yeah, like I said, not that you're doing that, but I think no matter what space you're in, you really respond to it authentically and and honestly and respectfully, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
thanks. I mean, I'm trying to, I guess when I started to read these books about this area is when I started to think to myself, I want to pick other people's brains about how they grew up here. And maybe they
Mm,
don't necessarily have to be the artists involved, but maybe there could be some interview that I do with them, and
mm.
that somehow the audio is in the show, right? It just feels like bigger to me. And
Yeah, I really love that gets me really excited. Like I love
mhm,
hearing that because it's like I said, it's about you
yeah.
individually, it's about your work, and it's about place, and it's about them. And
Hmm.
it's all working simultaneously and informing one another. Like that audio, that interview, that experience is going to influence your painting and influence how you
Hmm.
feel about being in that landscape and painting in that landscape. And it's all like it actually seems really important to your
Yeah.
practice. Like you doing potentially doing an interview is actually your practice, like your art making
Yes.
practice. Yeah.
And isn't it hard to decipher that in your work when you step outside the realm of painting? You don't necessarily equate it to your practice. You're like, oh, this is just something I'm doing that's going to correspond with my painting, but it's not the painting work. Like, I'm
Hmm.
not at work right now. It's kind of how I felt when I first quit my job and I was mixing color for a living. And I'm like, wow, I'm doing this for a living. This is real now. And it did not feel real to me until that moment. So I think I've been experimenting with more sculptural pieces outdoors, really, really in the landscape, and applying to even grants and shows with these different types of pieces. And as soon as I consider it a part of my work, something feels so good about it. It's like I'm taking ownership of these new ways of embodying my work, like an interview would, or um, a conversation with a lobsterman down the street that might live right next to the reservoir, and I want to know more about his experience there and what he's seen through the years. And it just really could be anything. But for me, I have such a hard time. I think what's limited me in this process is like, how is this my work? It's like you're a researcher, you're you're everything in this project, and I want that, right? Like, of course I want to be all of it. But I think what gets in my way in reality, if we're speaking about the emotional side of it, what gets in my way of pursuing this project is the perception I have about myself and the identity of of a painter.
Yeah, I mean, I relate to that, or maybe I should say I used to relate to that. Like this, like trying to primarily identify as a painter and that everything kind of should fall under that umbrella. And really, honestly, like you put so much time and effort and energy into painting specifically, and you kind of feel like everything needs to fall under that umbrella. And
Mm-hmm.
that recently changed for me, probably within the last
Yeah.
year. And I referenced the love letter thing because that was like a bit, it was a taste of incorporating another element, almost like a performative element of asking for love letters from the public and incorporating their writing into my painting. And it was a way of like, I was so interested in love in general, and I wanted to know more about it, like kind of what you were saying about being a researcher and wanting to
Mm-hmm.
incorporate that into my work. But really, it wasn't until last year when a friend of mine and artist that I was going to curate her work into a show at Montserrat. She passed away, and I was working with her family and her partner quite a bit, trying to think about what would be best to like honor her and what you always ask like, what would they have wanted?
Yeah.
And we collectively came up with the idea to re-perform her past works kind of in her honor. And I love kind of all work. Like I love painting, of course, sculpture, and I really love performance. But I've never really like considered myself a performance artist. I don't really know why. Like, who
Mm.
knows? There's just like maybe intimidation, or maybe I just felt like I need to put my time and energy into painting. But it was a way to access it where it felt like I was performing, not for myself, and it actually had nothing to do with me. It was for a community, for her family, for her, and
Right.
it gave me the strength and confidence to do it.
Right.
And
Because it wasn't under the breath of this is my art.
mhm,
You're stepping into the role as this is what I'm doing for this community,
right,
stepping into that role.
right. And it was so freeing. Like, it changed my life forever. Like, I
Mm.
can't even really verbally explain what it was like to do that whole thing, start to finish. But performing in particular was, it just opened my eyes to all that really the art making practice has to offer. And from that point on, I really considered myself like, a sculptor, a photographer, a printmaker, a
Yes.
performance artist, like everything. What we're doing right now
Ah,
is part of my art making practice, like this conversation.
yes.
Like, now the painting thing is totally lifted, like the jail cell of painting. Like, I
Yes.
am everything that I put my time and energy into, and I don't need to
Exactly.
be held back by it.
Yeah, that is such a good way of putting it. And I really hope that artists get the chance to understand this at an early age and at an early point in their life, because I certainly didn't learn this until my probably my second residency in Vermont Studio Center, where I came back and I was like, I don't even know if I'm a painter anymore. I'm so much more than that. I am this, I am that. I see my work being performative. I see it being in photography and videography and all of these things I still have yet to really truly implement into my practice, but they are there for me and they live there and I know that I can do this. And what you are saying about you needed that one moment to help you be free. And that is such a beautiful moment, is that you are doing it for somebody else and you're sinking into that role. And then all of a sudden it's changing you and changing your practice. And you're like, oh, wait, I can do this. This is something that I really enjoy. Let's try it. And there was one piece of advice that I got as a young, in my senior year of college, which was put something in a show that you would never apply with, something you wouldn't normally apply with to a show. And I thought about what you had seen in my studio, those little pieces of succulents that I would basically kill and put on a pedestal and watch the roots grow until they died and see how long they could withstand without being in water. A murderer. Never do that now. But, someone was like, put that in a show. And I'm like, what? No way. I'm a painter. There's no way I could put this in a show. It's not even me. And it's like, no, that's like more me than my paintings were. That whole aesthetic, that whole research kind of botanist idea that I had in my head at the time was more me than the paintings. So interesting that at that time it was so hard for me to see why. And now, literally 10 years later, I'm like, oh yeah, totally. I'm going to apply to a grant with sculpture. And I've never done sculpture really. Like, I'm just applying for this sculptural grant. I'm just going to do it because I have built sculptures that are in the landscape and I want people to see it.
Isn't it so exciting to just make what you want to make and not feel restricted in any way? Like, it all happens so quickly, like that moment. Well, a little bit of the taste with the love letter thing, some excitement built, the experience
Yes.
performing for Leah. And then a couple weeks later, a month later, I did this really, really small like iteration of an idea of an installation at Montserrat in the writing studio. And I showed everything, like the actual love letters as is with splashes of paint, like Polaroids, photography, ripped up paintings, fabric, like clothing, and in books and an audio recording of someone else reading a love letter. And you could like put on headphones and listen to it. And I was like so excited and moved by that installation. It was such a small scale. And it's just crazy to have kind of one thing after the other so quickly. And it just sparked this excitement for putting out a variety of media. And I ended that little installation writing out like I will create a large in like a gallery or some space a larger iteration of this with multiple video and like interviews and sound and paintings and stuff on the floor. And 2020 kind of took that away from me, but it gave me time to really think about it more, which I'm excited about. So I'm really excited for the next iteration of that small installation I did. Like I looked at it pretty objectively. Like I stepped back and looked at it, and I was so excited about it. Multiple people told me that they cried experiencing it, and like how powerful is that? Like I definitely want to create more of that.
I think you should. I think this is an opportunity for us to, like, just talking about these things reminds us of so much of what we created that we actually really like.
Mm.
I think painting, the reason why we like painting so much is that we're problem solving the entire way through. And it gives us a whole different feeling and a whole different challenge than an installation would. Or taking a video and editing it together. That gives you something, it's a different challenge. But with painting, we love it so much. We're not going to stop doing that. But what point do we expand and also learn and grow from different things we are curious about and want to continue learning? Like some residency programs, like if you went to a residency program to paint, you might be coming out of it actually doing more audio and installation work. And you didn't even think that you were going to do that. And that's what these experiences do offer us is the ability to see what we can create and like it. And you were even moved by your own work. You were moved by an experience that you had created. And I remember setting up shows where I'm like, wow, I'm so proud of this. I feel like it's really speaking, and it says a lot about me and says a lot about my work. And it's totally opposite of what I thought I would be showing, like 4 nice paintings or something. Instead, I
Hmm.
have a pile of dirt and some plants and shelving. And, it's just, I don't really know how to conclude that thought.
Yeah, I mean, it might just be like a personal thing. I recognize that element. Like people, there are probably people that love just like a beautifully curated selection of paintings or photographs. I keep saying this over and over, but I love like all parts of the art making practice. Like I want to
Yeah.
see crumbled up paper and like,
Yes.
installations are created to change your environment and change how you feel. And good ones
Yes.
do that, like you walk into them and it just changes everything. So,
Yes, exactly. And I think that's why you and I share we have so many similarities in the way that we view work and experience life, is that it's not just about the physical work itself. It's about the entire experience. It's about your environment. And you and I are so sensitive to our environment, and we're really
hmm,
responding to that. And the more I grow into my own practice, the more I really want, and there's a need to respond to it, right? Like I came here, I am changed by this landscape. I walk this reservoir every day. There is no way I'm going to be able to get through living here and not doing something with this.
right.
Like there's absolutely no way. It changed me. You were changed by performing
Hmm.
in that way. And your work will complement that down the road.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I frequently say, like, I really want to leave behind more than just pretty paintings, pretty images. Like, I really want to leave behind more than just that. Like, I want to leave behind
Hmm.
more than just paintings. Like, and
Yeah.
I already
Well, you will.
have. I already
You
have
already
like
have.
the love letter
Like, what are you
project,
talking about?
the love letter project in particular. Like the
Yes.
experiences I've had with those people have been so amazing, and getting my friend Arthur to read his love letter and record it and include his voice in my installation. Like he
Hmm.
was just so excited about that. So like it
Yeah.
becomes more meaning, it holds more meaning, exactly like you're talking about with this investigation with the landscape and talking with people and interviewing them and including them. It's like it's just building something that holds more weight than an image can hold.
Yes, exactly. And we love both things.
Right.
And there's no, yeah.
That's the thing, like
Hmm.
there is a reason, and an importance of why we're initially drawn to painting and why that's like our primary medium, like both as like a vehicle for exploring these particular things, but also like painting in and of itself. Like I love talking to real like painters who are like obsessed
Hmm.
with color,
Hmm.
and that's all very present for me too. I think
Yep.
um, that's why I primarily paint, is for all those reasons.
Same. I mean, painting gives back to me in more ways than maybe anything. It really teaches me a lot about myself, and
Mm,
maybe I'm using it for that reason, but it's made me discover a lot of who I am.
well said. Yeah, 100% for me too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we love painting, we love installation, we love photography, we love everything.
Yeah,
That's my
truly.
song.
Truly. Like I
Like, but yeah, we're gonna do it all in our communities. Because we're Aquarians and we can't help it. Okay, I'm done. All right. Great chat today, really.
Yes, I'm glad we got to meet, even though I was a little out of it, and the vaccines flowing in me. Like,
It's giving you powers, and when in Marvel, when the Infinity Stones did you watch Marvel?
mm-hmm.
Yeah, when these people can't even take the stone, their bodies will combust because it's so powerful. This is what's happening to you right now.
Yeah, it's a lot all happening, like, being recorded. So
yeah, I know.
Yeah,
much.
I'm gonna like definitely take it easy.
Just go relax. Have Devin, who seems to be totally fine, like make you a nice dinner.
Yeah, as he always does. I will.
Okay.
All right. Until next week.
Until next week.